Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane. We have for you a 1 versus 1 on Ruins of Rouen, or something about that. I can't exactly pronounce French very well, so I'll not really pretend to do so awfully well either. For you today we have a match featuring Panzarsturm, who is himself a former Company of Heroes Online player who has recently moved over to Company of Heroes. And seeing as Company of Heroes Online has recently shut down and there may be numerous players moving over there, I figured I might try and focus a bit on that in this cast, pointing out some of the differences which, besides the obvious no companies, no heroic units and no army items, there's also the slight difference in you having to use doctrines who are accessed from here. And you earn experience throughout the battle, which are then invested here via different doctrines you choose during the battle. You can only choose one, and of course depending on which one you choose you get different sorts of abilities. And the access, of course you'll have access to a lot more, and there'll also be passive abilities. So for example you may choose one that grants a passive bonus to infantry, whereas in Company of Heroes Online they were all active bonuses. Now then, we have Panzarsturm featuring as the 716th Grenadier Division in the south, and in the north we have Icella as the 29th Infantry Division. Hoorah! Probably not what they say though, but what the hell. The particulars about Ruins of Rouen is it's a heavily urban map, a lot of ruined buildings, so no garrisoning, but that also means that Volksgrenadiers and MG42 teams are a bit of a disadvantage since there's a lot of things blocking their line of fire, meaning American riflemen teams will have a much greater chance of getting up close, much to their advantage, and the Axis troops' disadvantage since they'll be having a lot of trouble establishing a secure front line and holding it, while the Americans will be able to hit from every angle and cause severe harassment, which is why I personally do not like this map, but I'm sure there are other Axis players who play this map quite fine, but that's a completely different matter. So let's get this started now. And we have Panzarsturm moving his pioneers out. A bit of hesitation as he seems unclear as whether or not to place down a Wehrmacht quarters or move them out. I can't say, all those indecision like that should preferably be avoided, since you want to have a at least clear plan with your starting troops as what to do, which to build and which to send out, since every second really counts here when it comes to securing territory. American engineers moving out as well in the north, securing the victory point and setting up a barracks. So we'll be seeing a rifleman start from here, possibly some jeeps for support. In the south the Wehrmacht quarters goes up, so we won't be seeing the dreaded pioneer spam, which of course will be nerfed in the next patch, as the Kampfkraft Center will from then on require a Wehrmacht quarters, meaning pioneer spam won't be as effective and will cost a lot more resources to get started. And we have the Wehrmacht quarters up, a lot of manpower in fact, and a MG42 team out from the start. Not new recommended, since you won't really have anything for it to support and anything to protect the MG42 team from the Americans. We'll probably be seeing a barracks, I mean a rifleman from barracks. Good lord. Engineers moving out to both sides, securing munitions, having already secured fuel. The Panzarsturm troops moving ahead, securing the central victory point with barbed wire, it seems, and going straight for the central victory point as well. Volksgrenadiers, the second team to be called in. MG42 team moving ahead, probably going to try and secure this central victory point, keep it covered. Barbed wire is certainly not a bad choice on a map like this, since you probably can in fact use barbed wire to make things a bit easier for your infantry, although at the same time that does require time to do so without taking fire, but he has that for the moment. Riflemen moving out, it seems, setting up a strategic observation point on the fuel point. Him doing so on a low fuel point, not really recommendable, since you won't get a huge advantage. In fact, it'll only give free extra fuel, and I can only imagine this might be doing more to prevent close harassment. But for example, that point neither in fact. Possibly this. Yes, this point would have been better for an observation post, and in fact those 200 manpower would have been better spent elsewhere. So, securing the central territory, MG42 team going up. Eastern victory point being secured by the engineers, while the northern has as well, northwestern more precisely. Volksgrenadier securing the point. Second Volksgrenadier team going out. A bit of the inverse of my opening is, which is 2 Volksgrenadiers team and then an MG42 team, but to each his own. And certainly if he is not really engaged from the beginning, the MG42 team can do alright. But for example, if the riflemen were to move in here, that MG42 team would be in a lot of trouble. And we see an rifleman advance preparing, opening up, but they have discovered the Volksgrenadier. Not really doing much, but now moving ahead, the Volksgrenadiers out in the open. Let's hope that Panzarsturm sees this and uses the cover. No, he retreats. Volksgrenadiers out in the open, taking heavy fire already. 2 Volksgrenadiers down, 2 wounded. Another down. He really should have retreated there. Not moving out in the open. 2 heavily wounded Volksgrenadiers, and now they are being retreated. And he is moving the other up here to harass. Possibly he should have moved them away, and a machine gun nest being set up to cover this munitions point. Although one should note that they could be easily flanked from here by Wehrmacht troops moving in here through this hole in the fence. Central victory point being secured. The Americans increasing their stranglehold along the east. Further riflemen moving in, but still only 2 teams and not a third team on the move. Icella is researching something, or training another engineer team. Interesting. 2 rifleman teams and 3 engineer teams, 1 equipped with a flamethrower. And the Volksgrenadiers running right into the MG42 machine gun nest, and flamethrower engineers suffering heavy losses. Not the ideal situation. Another machine gun emplacement going down. Perhaps what he wanted that extra fuel for. Observation posts on 2 fuel points. That's certainly a bit unorthodox, and a lot of manpower for a little fuel. And while some seem to think that fuel is everything, that's not quite correct. Manpower is everything, because you can't really do anything without manpower, ultimately. Fuel is just for researching for the most part, and taking up and vehicles, but it doesn't consist of your main fighting troops or anything like that. So without manpower you won't be able to keep your infantry on the move. Riflemen seeing common a very ruined building, along with the pioneers suffering heavy losses, and the snipers standing out in the open, much too close and not able to hit for the most part as well. Not really a wise decision. I'd certainly recommend putting those pioneers out, and the sniper as well, who is taking shots, it seems, at the riflemen in this building. Now pulling back. Panzarsturm's Volksgrenadiers have been badly mauled by the early fighting already. Riflemen running right into an MG42 team. Fire. Taking heavy losses and retreating. Sniper shooting and missing. And the BAR upgrade going up for the riflemen. BAR Browning automatic rifle. World War I weapon meant to support the infantry, only arrived late in the war, so not much use. Another MG42 team on the field, and he has already a heavy tier 1 presence. 2 Volksgrenadiers team, 1 sniper and 2 MG42 teams. Certainly a lot of firepower, but at the same time he's been fenced in for the most part by Icella, but at the same time it can easily been bypassed, because the MG42 team, the machine gun emplacements, aren't really in any crucial, well-defended positions or fortified, and so any real movement behind them can clear them out. But at the moment, that's not really much of a concern, since Panzarsturm's forces are widely spread out.
We'll be taking Berlin by Christmas.
Although he does finally seem to be moving his Volksgrenadiers together, causing heavy losses to the flamethrower engineers, who are now pulling back towards the machine gun emplacement along up the runway. Engineers strewn about on the runway, screaming in pain, writhing on the concrete path. And we have a Krieg barracks going up for Panzarsturm, meaning either grenadiers or a pack, and we see a supply yard going up for Icella, meaning he's not going for a weapon support center, but instead for a motor pool. Usual starting path for Americans to go: a barracks, few riflemen, and then we go for the supply yard and then the motor pool. So we'll probably be seeing M8s. Interesting thing to note though is he still only has 2 riflemen. Certainly not something you'll see most American players do, and in fact 2 infantry teams is really the bare minimum, and it's not something I'd recommend for the most part, in particular the Americans, and it's probably the inexperience of Panzarsturm that allows this to work. Panzarsturm moving up right into the firing lane of the machine gun nest, but it's not opening fire because of the control tower providing some cover. Riflemen opening fire on the MG42 team, which is out in the open. Snipers and MG42 team firing on the garrison riflemen here. And a forward barracks going up in a really damaged building. Not the wisest choice, since a few mortar shots, an Nebelwerfer barrage or anything else can quickly clear out that building, meaning that those 260 manpower is out the window.
Our forces are taking casualties.
BAR strewn on the ground, something that Panzarsturm should endeavor to try and get, so we can use it against the American player and for the American player to try and retake, so the Wehrmacht player doesn't get his hands on the BAR, which is in fact a quite nice LMG compared to the Wehrmacht LMG 42, which is currently not so great. Training a rifleman team from the barracks, forward barracks, perhaps a bit late though, and a second team recuperating up in the American base. Nothing going out of the motor pool, and Volksgrenadiers recuperating. I'm not sure what's going on of the Krieg barracks. Let's go have a look. A pack, which is a sensible choice, since one should really expect the thing to your American opponent to go after if he's not using a lot of riflemen. Is to go for M8, although the BAR would be an indicator that he's going to have it delayed, but in this case that's not really the case. He's been saving out a lot of manpower and fuel through these observation posts, although I still disagree with the construction of them on these points. M8 armored car on the field rolling ahead. Pioneers forced retreat, and the Volksgrenadiers who cleared out the machine gun nest, since they could, as I pointed out earlier, just easily flank past it. Munitions point being secured, fighting going out, the pack moving much too forward for my liking, now being flanked by the M8, although the commander Panzarsturm is aware of this and is firing into the rear armor.